What happens if you have like warfare dreams? Because I've had some warfare dreams, and
Wow.
you'd have that really, really powerful. And this is another dream element that's dark, weird, and difficult is warfare dreams. And you'd seen a principality that God had actually been speaking to you about. Um, do you want to share that dream or?
Yeah, yeah. I just want to take a step. I will share that dream, but I'll take a step back. Two types of warfare dreams. One is a dream that actually involves you doing warfare. We'll come on to those in a minute, and that's typically where we talk about things like sleep paralysis, demonic attack.
Mm,
That's a whole different, like, we'll talk about that. That's
mm,
dark, weird, and difficult as well. But this was a dark, weird, and difficult dream where I was being shown, I was witnessing a thing, and God was showing me something
mm,
because He wanted me to understand. I still don't fully know why He wanted me to understand, but I know what the dream means, and or what I think it means. And it was quite dark, weird, and difficult. I was in a city and I was wandering around. It was quite a nice, sort of a European city, but everybody was fighting. And they were fighting over their stuff. They were fighting over homes, over cars. Just everybody was fighting the whole time.
mm.
And there was, I've spoken before about the dream element of the Property Brothers, which is a TV show on home renovation. A pair of twins, and they go and renovate old homes for people. And one of them was in it. One of the Property Brothers was in this dream, and I went up to him, and I just, like, I was looking for a way out. I was actually looking for a way. I was looking for a door which would take me out of this city because everybody was fighting over stuff. So and I asked him, and he said there is no door. There is no way out of this. And I was like, oh, and it kind of left me not really knowing where to go. So I then was walking outside of the city bounds, and I could see the city behind me. But I went up a long, like, path up onto the top of a cliff, and on top of this cliff was an enormous tree, like absolutely enormous. And there was a gate, a wooden fence in front of this tree, but there was a gate. I think maybe it was an iron. Actually, it was an iron fence. It's quite a long time ago, but it was open. So I went through this gate, and I went round to the back of the tree, and I could see that there was a small door in this tree. And I was like, okay, that's like a bit weird. So, and I was with some other people who in this dream, but I don't remember who they were. I just remember they were my companions that I was like walking with. So we're on this cliff top with this tree, and I went in and around the back of this tree into this small door, and inside of this tree was what I can only describe as an enormous man who was probably about 60 feet tall, and had kind of bronzed skin. And I was like looking up at him because there wasn't much space in this tree. He was dressed in a tunic, like a Greek or a Roman would be, and because of my viewpoint, I was kind of down around his calves and his, like, up to the back of his knees, right? This figure, and I kind of looked up and I could actually see up his tunic, and there was like this filthy rag kind of covering his private area, and it was like, but it was like wet. It was wet and like slimy. And so I just thought, like, that's horrible, and I kind of pulled it off. I could reach up, and I pulled it off, because a bit of it was hanging down, and it revealed a mouth with red lipstick, um, and um, and it was kind of talking, and it had white teeth, right? So it was like a made up mouth, and that was all it was, instead of his in his private area, right? And that's where the dream ended. And I tell you, that was a dark, weird, and difficult
Did
dream.
you wake up with a headache? Was that the dream where you were praying in the spirit or something and you were rebuking it? Because I remember once I woke up and you woke me up in the middle of the night praying in tongues, and I was like, "What's going on here?" But yeah, I mean, you were obviously doing warfare, and God was revealing something.
I think God was showing me in that. I mean, this is how I interpreted it because I'm talking about it, and it is quite a weird dream. So I do owe at least what I felt it meant. And it was back in a period of my life when I was thinking about and just reflecting on kind of what was important and about this world and about, like, my place in it and all the rest of it. And I think it's a fight over property, and that is the way that people compete and war in this life and this world over possessions,
Especially in the West.
especially in the West. That's about material possessions, about having stuff, about houses, about cars. These are typically the things that people elevate in importance in our society. And I wanted a way out of that. But realistically, you have to be in the world but not of it. And that is the message of there being no door to this war over property. I can't take myself out of this environment without going and living in a cave, and not ever speaking to anybody. So it was like kind of the message I took from that was about being in the world but not of it. But then what God was showing me was the animating spirit of this world. The tree on top of the cliff is a counterfeit tree of life. So it's the tree of knowledge of good and evil as it's expressed in our contemporary society. Often, if you dream of something like that figure I saw, that is a representation of a principality which Paul talks about, the powers and principalities of this present age which we war against. It's not even something I would ever war against because it's way above my pay grade, to use a phrase. But what it was showing me was that it was inhabiting this false tree of life. It promises life. And rather than having reproductive organs, the ability to spiritually reproduce,
seductive, isn't it?
It's seductive, and it operates out of desire, which is what animates the fighting. And that's it's in James, isn't it, where he talks about
where do wars come?
Where do wars come from? They come from your desires to have. You want, but you don't have, and you fight over it. So it was talking about this present age and the way that people war over things and how it's animated by desire. And it led into quite a deep contemplation that I'm still in, where it's my understanding that the only right place for desire is God. And what I will towards is Him, and what He gives back to me, I will be content with. And so that's a very deep thread that's going on in my life. And seeing that was part of contemplating that and my onward journey with Him. So that was a very difficult dream, dark, weird, and very difficult. But it was part of actually a revelation of how this world is, which led on to my place in it.
And we were watching quite a bit about with Mike Bickle and the Laodicean Church, and what motivates probably the modern Laodicean Church. We were watching quite a lot about that, weren't we?
Yeah.
So that was also that time, I suspect, when we were doing that.